I love to write, and why I love to write is because I don't write about things that are not substantial. I don't write about things like the news. I'm not a political guy. I purely try to capture the human condition. I'm fascinated by it. I'm very empathetic. I feel for other people in ways that in many ways is detrimental to my own happiness, but it ultimately leads to this great art, which is bringing someone's story to life. When I wrote The Long Road North, I was just a kid. I'm still a kid, but I was just a kid trying to ultimately figure out what I want out of life, and I didn't have a crystallized version. But as I sit here right now, I have by no means have it all figured out, but I know what I want to be, and that's a full-fledged writer. It's not a side gig. It's not something that I can just casually do. It's something I want to immerse myself in. So people contact me after they read my book or after they read my blog, and they say, hey, I want to tell my own story. I just don't necessarily know how. So a lot of what I do is consulting. A lot of what I do is if someone's not necessarily ready to tell their story, I talk about how they can potentially one day present that story in a literary format. People have stories they want to be told. Not everyone wants to share their stories, but everyone has a story they want to be told. The people that approach me want to tell their story, obviously. They wouldn't come to me if they weren't interested in that. Why I say it's important that someone wants to share their story is because if they didn't, I'd be probing too deep. Instead, when I work with a client, it's a lot of me sitting back, just taking in what they have to say, sort of trying to picture how they are describing their life. When they take me back to particular moments, I'm sitting there looking into their eyes, ultimately trying to see what's this picture they're trying to portray. And it's always meaningful. It's not always happy. It's not always sad, but it's a part of their life that's significant. And being an empathetic person, it's very easy for me to relate to that. So China to me was a chance to grow. I heard once that the best writers have lived the most interesting lives. So a lot of going to China for me was to do that, was to expand my comfort zone. Go live in a place where English isn't the native language, a place where I'm going to have to deviate from what I'm used to. It very quickly can become overwhelming because you're around a bunch of people. Beijing, the city I lived in, was the biggest city I'd ever been to. I had to prove to myself that I was capable of overcoming that difficulty. That experience in China, when I write about it, let's say in 5-10 years, it'll be very interesting to see how I write about it. The beauty of working with older clients is they've lived their life, they have that perspective on what life's about, and that's why I love the ghostwriting, because it's easier for me. I can see the peace in their eyes. I don't have that peace yet. I'm still trying to find it. Recently, in the last 6 months, I've been working on my blog. I've shifted from talking about me as a means to also benefit my ghostwriting. So I interview people, because for about 2.5 years, I talked about myself. And whether it was people or it was me, I tired of that. I got tired of myself. I wanted to ultimately switch it up. And so I started interviewing people, and it's really helped my ghostwriting because it's allowed me to continually see different perspectives. So if one goes to my blog, QuentinSuper.com, in the last 6 months, you'll see my focus shift from writing about myself to writing about someone new. And I think their stories are interesting. I get much more satisfaction from writing someone else's story than I do from mine. If someone if someone is interested in having their story told, or if just wants to talk to me about in more depth what the process is about, they can contact me at my blog, QuentinSuper.com.